There's a moment that happens to every child. It's the moment when possibility dies, when dreams get labeled as fantasies, when the infinite becomes finite. Most people can't remember this moment, but the moment remembers them. You were maybe 6 or 7, bursting with excitement about something magnificent you wanted to become. An artist painting masterpieces, an explorer discovering new worlds, a scientist unlocking the mysteries of the universe. Your eyes were bright, your heart was open, your spirit was electric with possibility. Then an adult spoke. Someone you trusted completely. Someone whose opinion mattered more than anything in the world. They didn't shout, they didn't lecture. They simply said something that felt like wisdom at the time. That's nice, honey, but let's be realistic. In that moment, something sacred died inside you. Not just the dream itself, but something deeper. The belief that you were meant for extraordinary things, the knowing that you were born to create magic in this world. This is the most tragic story ever told, because it happens to almost everyone. And the cruelest part, the people who kill these dreams are the same people who would die to protect the dreamer. Your parents didn't set out to limit you. They were trying to save you from the heartbreak they experienced when their own dreams were crushed. They were attempting to prepare you for a world that seemed dangerous and unforgiving. They thought they were being loving. They thought they were being wise. But what they were actually doing was passing on a virus, a mental virus that had infected them when they were children. A virus that convinced them that ordinary was safe and extraordinary was dangerous, and you caught it. We all did. Right now, as you process these words, there's ancient programming running in the background of your mind. Code that was written when you were too young to question it. Instructions about what's possible and what's not. Rules about who you can become and who you can't. This programming doesn't announce itself. It doesn't wave a flag and say, "I'm limiting you." Instead, it disguises itself as common sense. It masquerades as maturity. It presents itself as the voice of reason. Think about this for a moment. Really think about it. When you were 5 years old, everything was possible. You were going to be an astronaut, a princess, a superhero, the president. You had no concept of limitations, no understanding of realistic expectations. You lived in a world of infinite possibility. What happened to that child? Your parents happened. Society happened. Well-meaning adults who had forgotten their own dreams happened. They said things like, money doesn't grow on trees. They said, life isn't fair. They said, you need to be realistic. And every single one of these statements was a brick in the wall that would eventually imprison your potential. But here's what they didn't tell you. Here's what nobody tells you. Those statements weren't facts. They were beliefs. Beliefs that had been passed down like a family heirloom nobody wanted, but everyone kept anyway. Your father, who told you to get a real job, was repeating what his father told him. Your mother, who warned you about taking risks, was echoing her mother's fears. Generation after generation, passing down the same limiting beliefs like some twisted game of telephone, and you bought into it. We all did, because when you're a child, your parents are gods. Their word is law. Their beliefs become your reality. Their fears become your fears. Their limitations become your ceiling. You see, your unconscious mind was like a sponge during those early years. Everything your parents said, everything they believed, everything they feared, it all got absorbed, filed away, stored as truth. And that truth is still running your life today. When you hesitate before taking a big opportunity, that's your parents' voice. When you talk yourself out of pursuing your dreams, that's their programming. When you settle for less than you deserve, you're honoring their limitations, not your own. This is why so many people live lives of quiet desperation. This is why so many people die with their music still inside them. This is why you might be reading this right now, feeling like something is missing, like you're capable of so much more, because you are. But first, you need to understand exactly how this programming works. You need to see the invisible chains before you can break them. Let me paint you a picture. Picture a little girl who loves to sing. She's 7 years old, and she sings everywhere, in the car, in the shower, at the dinner table. One day she tells her mother she wants to be a singer when she grows up. Her mother, who gave up her own dreams of singing to be responsible, feels a pang of old pain. Without even realizing it, she says, "Honey, singing is nice as a hobby, but you need to think about something more stable. Being a singer is too risky. Most people who try never make it." The little girl's face falls. In that moment, something dies inside her. Not just her dream of singing, but something deeper. Her belief in her own possibilities. Fast forward 30 years, that little girl is now a woman working in a cubicle, humming quietly to herself when no one is listening. She's practical, she's realistic, she's also deeply unhappy, and she can't figure out why. This is the tragedy of inherited limitations. Your parents didn't mean to steal your dreams. They were trying to protect you from the disappointment they experienced. They were trying to save you from the pain of failure. But in trying to shield you from temporary pain, they condemned you to a lifetime of regret. And here's the really insidious part. This programming doesn't just affect your career choices. It affects everything. Influenced everything. It affects how much love you think you deserve. It affects how much money you believe you can make. It affects how healthy you think you can be. It affects how happy you allow yourself to become. Because if your parents struggled with money, you absorb the belief that money is hard to come by. If they had a difficult marriage, you absorb the belief that relationships are hard work. If they were unhappy, you absorb the belief that happiness is fleeting. You're living your life according to rules you never chose. Rules that were created by people who were living according to rules they never chose either. But here's what I want you to understand. Here's what changes everything. Those rules are not real. They never were real. They were just beliefs. And beliefs can be changed. Right now, in this moment, you have the power to reject every limiting belief that was ever installed in your mind. You have the power to question every truth you were taught. You have the power to rewrite the software that's been running your life, but it's not easy. Because these beliefs feel true. They feel like facts. They feel like reality itself. When you think about asking for a raise, and that voice says, "Don't be greedy," that feels like wisdom. When you think about starting your own business, and that voice says, "It's too risky," that feels like prudence. When you think about pursuing your passion, and that voice says, "Be realistic," that feels like maturity. But it's not wisdom, it's not prudence, it's not maturity, it's fear, it's limitation, it's the echo of someone else's dreams, dying, and you don't have to listen to it anymore. Look, I understand this is hard to hear. I understand it's painful to realize that the people you love most might have inadvertently sabotaged your potential. But understanding this is the first step to freedom. Your parents did the best they could with what they knew. They operated from their own programming, their own fears, their own limitations. They were human beings, flawed and frightened, trying to navigate a world that often felt dangerous and uncertain. But their limitations don't have to be your limitations. Their fears don't have to be your fears. Their ceiling doesn't have to be your ceiling. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue living according to programming you didn't choose? Are you going to keep honoring limitations that aren't even yours? Are you going to let someone else's fears determine your destiny? Or are you going to take your power back? Because that's what this is really about. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about recognizing that you are not your programming. You are not your conditioning. You are not the voice in your head that tells you what's possible and what's not. You are the awareness behind that voice. You are the consciousness that can observe those thoughts and choose whether to believe them or not. And once you recognize this, everything changes. Start paying attention to that voice. Start noticing when it speaks up. Start asking yourself, is this my voice, or is this someone else's voice speaking through me? When you catch yourself saying, I can't afford that, ask yourself, is that true, or is that something I learned to say? When you catch yourself saying, that's too risky, ask yourself, according to whom? Based on what evidence? Most of the time, you'll find that these aren't your thoughts at all. They're just old programming running on autopilot. And here's what's really beautiful about this discovery. Once you see the programming, once you recognize it for what it is, it starts to lose its power over you. It's like waking up from a dream. The dream felt real while you were in it, but once you're awake, you realize it was just a dream. The monsters that seemed so terrifying were just shadows. The limitations that seemed so solid were just illusions. But breaking free from this programming requires more than just awareness. It requires courage. It requires a willingness to disappoint the people who programmed you. It requires a willingness to live differently than your family has lived for generations. And that's scary because on some level, breaking free from your programming feels like betraying the people who gave it to you. It feels like saying their way of life was wrong. It feels like abandoning the tribe. But here's what I need you to understand. Living your truth, pursuing your dreams, becoming who you really are, that's not a betrayal of your parents. That's the fulfillment of their deepest hopes for you. Deep down, beneath all their fears and limitations, your parents wanted you to be happy. They wanted you to live a life of meaning and purpose. They wanted you to become everything you could become. They just didn't know how to give you that gift because they never received it themselves. So by breaking free from the programming, by living authentically, by pursuing your dreams despite their warnings, you're actually honoring them in the deepest way possible. You're completing something they started but couldn't finish. You're healing not just your own life, but the generational pattern of limitation that has been passed down for decades, maybe centuries. Think about that for a moment. Think about the power of that. By changing yourself, by breaking free from inherited limitations, you change the trajectory of your entire family line. You become the ancestor that future generations will thank. You become the one who said enough to limitation and yes to possibility. Your children, if you have them, won't inherit your fears. because you faced them. They won't inherit your limitations because you transcended them. They won't inherit your programming because you deprogrammed yourself. Instead, they'll inherit your courage. They'll inherit your authenticity. They'll inherit your belief in what's possible. But it starts with you, right here, right now. It starts with a simple decision to question everything you've been taught about what's possible for your life. It starts with a willingness to disappoint the voice in your head that says, you're not good enough, smart enough. It starts with recognizing that voice for what it is, an echo from the past, not a prophecy for the future. So let me ask you something. What dream have you abandoned because someone told you it wasn't realistic? What passion have you suppressed because someone convinced you it wasn't practical? What version of yourself have you never become because someone taught you it wasn't possible? That dream is still alive inside you. That passion is still burning, maybe just a flicker now, but still there. That version of yourself is still waiting to be born. The question is, are you ready to stop living according to someone else's limitations? Are you ready to start questioning the voice that's been holding you back? Are you ready to reprogram yourself for success instead of failure? Because here's what I know about you, even though we've never met. I know you're capable of extraordinary things. I know you have gifts that the world needs. I know you have dreams that deserve to see the light of day, but none of that matters if you don't know it. None of that matters if you keep listening to the voice that tells you otherwise. The time has come to silence that voice, not with anger, not with violence, but with love, with compassion, with understanding. That voice was installed by people who loved you, but were trapped by their own programming. Honor their love by refusing to stay trapped yourself. Your parents programmed you to fail, not because they wanted you to fail, but because they were programmed to fail themselves. They passed on what they received because they didn't know there was another way. But you know better now. You know there is another way. You know that limitations are learned, not real. You know that beliefs can be changed. You know that programming can be rewritten. The question is, what are you going to program yourself for now? What beliefs about yourself are you going to choose to install? What voice are you going to listen to from now on? What version of yourself are you going to commit to becoming? Because the truth is, you're going to be programmed by something. That's how the human mind works. The question is whether you're going to choose your programming consciously or let it be chosen for you by default. I suggest you choose consciously. I suggest you program yourself for success, for happiness, for abundance, for love, for everything you've ever wanted but were taught you couldn't have. And when that old voice speaks up, when it tries to remind you of your limitations, when it tries to convince you to play small and stay safe, I want you to remember something. That voice is not you. It never was you. It's just an echo from the past trying to protect you from dangers that no longer exist. You are the author of your own story now. You are the programmer of your own mind. You are the creator of your own reality, and the reality you create from this moment forward will be based on possibility, not limitation. It will be based on love, not fear. It will be based on who you really are, not who you were taught to be. This is your time. This is your moment. This is your chance to break free from the programming that has held you back, and step into the life you were always meant to live. The child you once were, the one who believed everything was possible, is still inside you. That child is waiting for you to remember who you really are. It's time to remember. It's time to break free. It's time to reprogram yourself for the extraordinary life that's been waiting for you all along. Your parents programmed you to fail without knowing it. But now you know it. And knowing it changes everything. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? The rest of your life starts now. But let me share something else with you. Something that will shake you to your core. The programming your parents installed wasn't just about career choices or financial beliefs. It went deeper, much deeper. They programmed you about love, about worthiness, about your fundamental value as a human being. Watch what happens when someone compliments you genuinely. Notice how quickly you deflect it, how uncomfortable it makes you feel, how your mind immediately searches for evidence that they're wrong about you. That's not humility. That's programming. You were taught that accepting praise was arrogant, that believing in yourself was selfish, that acknowledging your gifts was boastful. So you learned to minimize yourself, to hide your light, to make yourself smaller so others would feel comfortable. Your parents did this with the best intentions. They were trying to keep you humble. They were trying to make sure you'd be liked. They were trying to protect you from the dangers of having too much confidence. But what they actually did was teach you to betray yourself, to abandon yourself, to become a stranger to your own magnificence. And this betrayal runs so deep that most people spend their entire lives never knowing who they really are. They know who they were taught to be. They know who they think they should be. But they never meet the person they actually are, underneath all that conditioning. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you felt truly proud of yourself? When was the last time you acknowledged your own brilliance, without immediately following it with, but I still need to work on, or, but I'm not as good as? You've been trained to focus on your flaws, to obsess over your weaknesses, to ignore your strength. Because somewhere along the way, someone convinced you that this was the path to improvement, that self-criticism was the key to growth. But it's not. It never was. Self-criticism is the weapon your programming uses to keep you small. It's the voice that ensures you never fully step into your power. It's the mechanism that guarantees you'll always play it safe. And the most devastating part? You think this voice is protecting you. You think it's keeping you grounded. You think it's preventing you from becoming arrogant or delusional. But what it's actually doing is preventing you from becoming yourself. Your true self doesn't need to be kept in check. Your authentic nature doesn't need to be controlled or managed or minimized. Your real essence is not dangerous or threatening or too much for this world to handle. Your real essence is exactly what this world needs. But your programming has convinced you otherwise. It has convinced you that you need to be fixed before you can be valuable, that you need to be perfect before you can be worthy, that you need to earn your place in this world through endless striving and proving and performing. This is the lie that keeps you trapped. This is the belief that keeps you running on a hamster wheel of trying to become good enough for a love that should be your birthright. You don't need to earn your worthiness. You don't need to prove your value. You don't need to fix yourself before you can claim your place in this world. You are worthy because you exist. You are valuable because you are here. You are enough because you are you. But your programming will fight this truth with everything it has. It will bring up evidence of your failures. It will remind you of your mistakes. It will whisper about all the ways you don't measure up. And when it does, I want you to remember something crucial. That voice is not protecting you from delusion. It's protecting itself from extinction. Because once you truly understand that you are enough as you are, that voice becomes unnecessary. Once you fully grasp that you are born worthy, that programming becomes obsolete. Once you recognize that you don't need to earn love, those limiting beliefs have nowhere to live. This is why the voice fights so hard to stay alive. This is why it gets louder when you start to question it. This is why it becomes more insistent when you begin to break free. It's not trying to help you, it's trying to survive. And your job is not to destroy it, but to outgrow it. Your mission is not to fight it, but to transcend it. Your purpose is not to silence it, but to choose something bigger. Choose the voice that reminds you of your magnificence. Choose the perspective that sees your potential. Choose the belief that honors your gifts. Choose the programming that serves your highest good. Because you get to choose. You've always had the power to choose. Your parents programmed you to fail without knowing it, but they also gave you the greatest gift of all. They gave you a mind capable of reprogramming itself. They gave you the ability to think new thoughts, to believe new beliefs, to choose new choices, to become a new person. And that new person has been waiting your entire life for this moment, for this recognition, for this awakening, for this choice to finally step into the truth of who you really are. The programming ends with you. The limitations stop here. The cycle of inherited mediocrity dies with your decision to live differently. Your children, if you have them, will inherit courage instead of fear. They will inherit possibility instead of limitation. They will inherit love instead of conditional approval. But it all starts with you recognizing a simple truth. You are not broken. You never were broken. You were just programmed to believe you were. And now, it's time to remember who you were before the programming began. It's time to reclaim the child who knew everything was possible. It's time to resurrect the dreamer who believed in magic. That person is still alive inside you, waiting, watching, hoping that today is finally the day you choose to come home to yourself. And coming home isn't a gentle process. It's not a comfortable journey. Because home means facing every lie you've been living. Home means confronting every mask you've been wearing. Home means acknowledging every dream you've buried under the weight of someone else's expectations. Your programming will resist this homecoming with everything it has. It will create chaos to distract you. It will manufacture crises to pull you back into old patterns. It will whisper seductive lies about safety and security and the wisdom of staying small. This is the moment when most people turn back. This is where they convince themselves that maybe the programming wasn't so bad after all. Maybe playing it safe really is the smart choice. Maybe their parents were right to warn them about reaching too high. But you're not most people. If you were, you wouldn't be here, absorbing these words, feeling this stirring in your soul. You're here because something inside you knows there's more. Something inside you remembers what it felt like to believe in magic. And that something is stronger than any programming. It's older than any conditioning. It's more persistent than any voice telling you to settle for less. That something is your essence, your true nature. The part of you that existed before the world told you who to be. The part of you that will exist long after all the voices of limitation have been silenced. This essence doesn't need your permission to exist. It doesn't need your approval to shine. It doesn't need your understanding to transform your life. It just needs your willingness to get out of its way. Your parents programmed you to fail because they were programmed to fail. But failure was never your destiny. Limitation was never your truth. Smallness was never your nature. You were born to succeed. You were born to expand. You were born to become everything you ever dreamed of becoming, and more. The programming ends here, the conditioning stops now, the cycle breaks with you. Your true life begins the moment you choose to remember who you really are. And that moment is now. The rest of your life starts now.